Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. I just finished the last episode of Chernobyl, and you should watch this series. You should watch it yesterday. Wow. Uh, the Obviously this is based on a historical event. So when I was a little kid, Chernobyl happened a few years before I was born. I grew up hearing the word Chernobyl as a synonym for disaster or catastrophe. And then, in high school, I'd learn, okay, it was a nuclear reactor that failed. I think, wow, that's bad. And that was about it. Right. So maybe like the first interesting thing about this series is what a good example it is of how good storytellers and good filmmakers can look at a historical moment in time and make it a story that really means something to you and speaks to you and gets people interested in this thing. I think that's a really important role of film. So, as a work of art, Chernobyl is, I think it's a perfect work of art. The cinematography is all there. The writing is very balanced. You feel something the entire time you watch it. So the feeling I felt the entire time I was watching Chernobyl, all five episodes, was I felt the same way I did when I was probably about 5 years old, lying in bed at night and imagining a monster was coming to eat me in the dark, and then trying to hide under my blankets, thinking that would make me safe from the monster, but also knowing that there would be no reason why a blanket would stop a monster, and just sort of being frozen in panic, like even too afraid to go turn on the light. That's the feeling that Chernobyl evokes, because you just start to realize that there are things in this world that can kill us, and there'd really be nothing we could do to stop it. It's almost like if you were teleported back in time and had to approach a dragon, where you'd have no way of conquering a dragon with your bare hands. That's what radiation becomes in Chernobyl. It's like an insurmountable fear. The important theme of it, though, is so it's not just, oh, radiation's bad, we got to stop the radiation. The beautiful thing about Chernobyl is its central theme, which I'd summarize as will you tell the truth? And its tagline even emphasizes this. What is the cost of lies? So the writers and directors of Chernobyl are not just like dryly saying, oh, this happened and then this happened and then this happened. What a disaster. They're telling a story, and that story has a theme to it, and that theme is important to you. And I think their argument is that it took a culture like the Soviet Union for Chernobyl to happen. It took a set of values, and the Soviet values were all based on lies. They're not interested in freedom of speech. If you have something to say that is inconvenient to them or makes them look bad, it doesn't matter how right you are or how sound your science is. The party's only interested in what's in the party's interest. Therefore, you need to shut up, or we'll kill you, or we'll demote you, or we'll make you a non-person. And maybe that's the second important thing about it is, nothing. There's nothing in our politics that's as extreme as Soviet Russia, obviously, but you do see things in this TV series that are important for everyone. Like the fact that the main character is, I got to look up these names because they're Russian, is Valery Legasov, who's a nuclear physicist, and he's called in to kind of help solve the Chernobyl problem. And it's frightening the whole time, because if you can't even get close to it without dying, how are you supposed to contain this before it just spreads and spreads and spreads? That's one of the things I didn't know historically. Was I knew it was a disaster. I didn't know how at risk that disaster was of spreading and becoming like a worldwide disaster, of killing like millions and millions of people, which they barely averted. So Valery Legasov is providing a professional perspective on what to do to stop the radiation. And he's working with Boris Sherbina, who is a lifelong Communist Party guy, kind of like a construction guy. And they're a great team. Legasov provides his expertise. Boris gets things done. He leads men. He knows how to move men around. He knows how to play the game of politics and try to get the Soviet party men to do the things he needs them to do. But the entire time throughout this series, you understand fully that the major impediment to things getting done is the Soviet structure, is the Communist Party. And they use the art to remind you of this. They'll be talking and there'll be a statue of Lenin right there. They'll be sitting in Gorbachev's office and there'll be a little portrait of Karl Marx looking over everybody. I kind of can't believe that this series exists. It is such an open and straightforward artistic condemnation on the evils of Marxist thought and what it leads men to. So maybe that's like the second important thing. So whenever you talk about socialism or Marxism today with contemporary advocates of the ideology, they'll say something like, "Oh, Marxism's good in theory, just it's impractical in practice," or "None of the socialist states that have failed were really socialist. They weren't true to the core principles of Karl Marx. They all became authoritarian." But the question that Chernobyl is posing is, why does this happen? Why do these revolutions always start as a people's revolution, as a Leninist revolution? And then decades go by and it becomes an authoritarian structure where they're still parroting the words of Lenin over and over again. They're giving little awards to all of these people for being good little communists, while not even paying attention to the big looming catastrophe that's coming. That's one of the points, is you can be this well-awarded little communist. You can do all the things your boss tells you you're supposed to do. You can do everything your boss says is right. But if you aren't paying attention to the truth in the world, the reality of the world, that none of that's going to matter. None of your little pats on the back and you're being a good little communist youth is going to matter when you make a mistake and you're bathing in radiation poisoning, because the truth matters. Where was I going with this? So where I was going with this is because the Soviet Union is reliant on people are people. People are sinful. People look out for their own self-interests. They want to take care of themselves. They want to move ahead in the world. They want to be the biggest bully. So no matter how much a Soviet system says, hey, everyone's equal. Hey, we're all comrades. Hey, we're following Leninist principles. Human nature inevitably leads people to follow their own self-interests. And if you punish people for telling the truth, if you only allow people to be slaves in your culture and only allow them to say what you think they should say, then you have a weaker culture. Then you have a culture where no one can tell the truth for fear of their own life. And then the more lies you tell, then that's kind of like the central theme of the whole thing, that once you start, every little lie you tell is a debt against the truth. And once a culture is based on lies, you are just setting yourself up for disaster, because if you're willing to lie over the little things, maybe you're willing to lie over the big things, and sometimes the big things can kill everyone and everyone you love. And not only will it kill you and everyone you love, it'll kill you and everyone you love in a painful way. And then other people are going to have to die just to clean up that mess, and it's going to change them. One of the beautiful things about the series is how much it highlights the importance of duty and kind of the idea of doing something for posterity, for your countrymen. So young men were sent to die. A lot of them probably didn't even understand. They may have had like a vague idea of what radiation would do to them, but no doubt the Soviets would kind of like play down the disaster and say, "Oh, don't worry, it might be like getting a chest X-ray. You'll be fine, and look, you'll get 500 whole bucks. Isn't that a great deal to go into Chernobyl and clean it up?" Some people obviously did know what they were going into and that they were going to die. Some people were probably lied to and went in thinking that it was no big deal. Dang it! It's almost hard to encapsulate how. That's the thing, is I think good art encapsulates something beautiful and true so powerfully, it's almost hard to put into words. So really, to sum it all up, the importance of this series is, will you tell the truth? Why the truth matters? Why you can lie to some of the people some of the time. You can lie to the other countries. You can lie to the press. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to your boss. You can lie to your family. But eventually the truth will out. And its argument is that the lack of freedom and just the lack of sanity in the Soviet government is what led to this great pain for the Russian people. And it was also the heroism of many Russian people that kept this from being a disaster that cost the lives of millions and millions more. Really beautiful series. You've got to watch it. You have got to watch this series. So the lesson for the future is, tell the truth. Don't tell lies. And do not try to live in a culture where do not try to create a culture where everyone must agree with you, where everyone must believe as you believe, and where no one can speak to you things that you don't want to hear. You want to live in a world where people are willing to tell you things that you don't want to hear, because you don't want to find yourself waltzing into a catastrophe with no idea how to get out, because no one was willing to tell you that you were waltzing into a catastrophe. Maybe one last little artistic comment. They even do a good job of like explaining the nuclear physics sides of things for idiots like me who just like barely remember high school physics and the chapter about it. But they even like do a good job of working it into the story. So Legasov isn't just talking your ear off about how a nuclear reactor works. He's explaining how a nuclear reactor works in the context of a scene where it makes sense for him to give that explanation. It actually builds his character because you can see how nervous he is and how he's struggling to have to make a difficult decision about whether he'll tell the truth or not. There's excellent theming where this is a consistent theme throughout every episode. He's constantly finding he has to tell little white lies to people, and he hates this. And his ultimate moral challenge is, will he finally tell the truth when it counts? Beautiful story. You got to see it. That's it. Check out Chernobyl. Let me know if you watched it in the comments. It's sad. It's a really sad story. It's a really terrifying story, but I think you got to watch it because the lesson it has to tell about the truth is really important, and I think you should experience this. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm the Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. What a great series. I'll catch you later.